McKenzie show debate. My name is Jason, I'll be your speaker. Alex will be your timer. I'd like to introduce the teams representing Her Majesty's government. We have Mr. McKenzie and Mr. Dahlia. Opposition, Victor and Jenny. And without further ado, I'd like to call upon the Prime Minister to introduce the motion that stands in his name.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker, Debate Club. This House would teach Ebonics as a class. Now, what I mean by Ebonics is the standard African-American vernacular English that you see spoken in the inner cities. Now, as a classroom, we're talking about having it offered at the high school level. Now, this doesn't mean that every school would have to teach it, but it should be offered, it should be available. We would expect that the suburbs would be the place where this is important. When you're in the inner city itself, no one needs to teach you how to speak black. But it's the areas on the outskirts that cause tension. These white people get confused when they hear certain things, so this is what we're targeting. Now, my roadmap is that there's an evolution to language, the English language specifically. Respect, yo. And break the chains. So first, English evolved. It didn't just spring into existence. This goes way back to ancient Britain. There was the Anglos, the Saxons, the Jutes. They're responsible for the foundation of the language. After that, it was influenced from the French, the Germans. Latin was an influence. You had all these other influences coming and going, and they all influenced the language. Shakespeare himself is credited with over 2,000 words. So we have all these different sources that change our language, and not just words, but the fundamental structure of the language. Now, the important thing to recognize here is, what do we recognize as a legitimate change? Now, 10 years ago, ginormous was inducted into the dictionary. Guaranteed sub gets used much more than ginormous does, and yet, that's not the dictionary. This brings me to my second point, a very important point of respect. You must respect the culture. You see, when you allow one group to have new words, another group not to, even though these words are being used, you're saying this culture is more valuable. White people are just more valuable. That's what you're saying when you say this. Now, I'm not suggesting that Ebonics should be used every place by everyone. But there's a time and a place. Like your doctor comes into the room and says, "Yo, dog, you done broke your arm." Like, that's not appropriate. But it's also not appropriate for me to say, due to the auspicious occasion this evening, I feel we should change the parameters of our meeting and go to perhaps a more lively location. No. I'm going to say, "Yo, dog, we out. Got to bounce. It's my boy's birthday. We're going downtown. We're going to light it up." And the reason one is preferred over the other is not clarity. Both are equally clear or unclear based on your perspective. It's about the feeling being appropriate for the occasion. Now, when you say that this is proper and this is not, you're disrespecting a group. Now, we're not talking about some flash-in-the-pan thing that's happened. This language has been used for many years. It's established. So,
as my partner will later be going on in his point, then wouldn't you agree that we should allow different other dialects, such as Valley Girl dialects, Valley Girl English, or vernacular English to be taught?
These are exactly the flash-in-the-pan sort of languages that I'm speaking about. Someone comes out with a song, people talking about Friday for next little bit. No, you don't legitimize that. But when it's been established many years, over a long history, then you say, you know what? You've earned your place at the table. And that's what we're talking about here. The rightful place at the table. Now, you'll see that it's about respect. If you look at Quebec, why are they upset? Why do they want signs in both French and English? They want respect. This is the same respect we've given to Native Americans recently. We have a Native Studies class. This is appropriate. It's out of respect. We give them the right respect that they're due. And this is the same thing that should be done with the African American culture. That's why the word dis was such a popular word back in the 90s. being disrespected is a huge offense. We need to break the chains. The chains I'm talking about are twofold. First, when the Americans went to the British and dumped their tea in the lake and said, we'll have no more of this, in the English Tea Party, they'll have no more of this, and yet, still, when it comes to language, they say, you must speak the Queen's English, or we're not going to allow you into our establishment. We have to break the chains from old Britain. In North America, we are our own people. And our people speak a particular way. We should embrace this. We should celebrate it, and we should share it. But it's worse than this. We also have, looming over the heads of America especially, with the chains of slavery. And when we say that the way you speak is not proper, we won't allow it, you're reinforcing the old slavery days. Side opposition supports slavery. They no longer want physical slavery, but they do want verbal slavery. They want you to think like a white person, speak like a white person, act like a white person. And we on side government feel this is grossly inappropriate. We feel that cultures evolve very organically, but you disagree.
Wouldn't you say that we totally respect different languages? This is why we offer proper language classes, like French.
Exactly right there is my point. Sit down. The differentiation between proper and improper. That is exactly what is at the heart of their argument. And we'll hear it over and over again how if I say, yo dog, we got to go someplace, she'll say that's improper. But why? My boy understands what I'm saying. He ain't got to ask me again. It's very clear. That's the purpose of language. It's not just to establish yourself as someone who lives in an ivory tower. No, it's much more than that. As a matter of fact, this is why you'll see the African American culture speaking in a different way to differentiate themselves. They don't want to be part of the slave owners anymore. They want to be separate. What we're saying is, to come together, we must all come together. We can't simply make them embrace our way of speaking. We should also meet them halfway and say, hey, well, what do you mean when you say you need to ask me a question? Like, I don't understand. When you're talking about go inside and shooting 5. What does that mean? I think it's important. I think we have an obligation, a fundamental moral obligation to embrace all cultures and truly try to understand, not simply understand the proper languages. This house is glad to propose.